Live from parts unknown, you're listening to Simon Miller's Pro Wrestling Podcast, the only wrestling podcast on the planet, we think. Sit back, relax, prepare for positivity to run through your veins as Simon Miller gives you your weekly dose of powerful pro wrestling audio. It is Miller Time.
Hello and welcome to Simon Miller's Pro Wrestling Podcast. My name is Simon Miller and this is a pro wrestling podcast. And somehow, I remember a few months ago when things were crazy and I was busy and I was just, I wasn't very good at basically being very scheduled with the podcast. And somehow this week, we've smashed out 3 episodes, which I bet some people are now going, Miller, that's too many episodes. And you'll be 100% correct, but we've done it anyway. And here we are. I wanted to get the Q&A episode in, right? A load of people have been sending me questions and I feel like, I should answer these questions. You guys, take the time to ask. I should take the time to answer as well. That only seems fair. If this is the first time you've ever listened to my podcast, thank you very much for joining me. You may know me from What Culture and all those kind of stuff. And you can also find me over social media at SimonMiller316 or on YouTube at youtube.com/The Miller Report Rules. We'll explain that another time. And also, if you're interested in how I do all this stuff, it is supported by Patreon. Patreon, that wonderful crowdfunding / whatever you want to call it system that some people love and some people hate. It's been very kind to me, so I love it. And that's just patreon.com/SimonMiller316. Even $1 makes me doing this a little bit easier because I can buy food. Basically, this is how I make my living. Now, it is a Q&A episode, as I say, and I always like to get somebody on. And somebody who very kindly did support me through the Patreon was my man Stan. And my man Stan joins me now. Stan, how you doing today?
I am doing wonderful, Simon, and if someone is listening for the first time, I do apologize because it's the old curmudgeon episode of your guest. So
I'm all right with that, man. I like it. I like all ages, genders, whatever. I like it all, mate, because everybody comes with a different perspective to pro wrestling, and that is why Absolutely. I find these chats so interesting. I mean, I just love the fact the wrestling community is like this to begin with, and we can all come together and just talk about something we love. But everybody has a different story to tell, a different perspective. Some people love X, and other people love Y, and I really do think that's why wrestling has the longevity that it does, because it's not black and white, and if it was, I don't think we'd enjoy it as much as we do. So on that note, Stan, tell the world, tell the listeners, how the hell did you get into professional wrestling?
Okay, well,
we've had some amazing stories.
You talk about longevity. I want to believe I'm about 38 years I've been watching wrestling.
Wow, man, but you win. That's the longest so far, so...
My first event, I when I was about 12 years old, of course I was aware of it, but this was back in 1982 or 1980, so it wasn't nearly as far as television and everything as what it was today. And a friend of mine, him and his dad, the WWF at the time was coming to our local thing. He took me, and I was hooked. And, this is even pre-Hogan, this was Snuka and Backlund and Don Morocco and the Wild Samoans and Tony Atlas and Rocky Johnson. I mean, this was before it became even a sniff of what we know it is today.
That's incredible, though, man. I mean, you have a completely different perspective than... just through time, you have a completely different perspective on what wrestling was and also what wrestling has become. So, if anything, out of everybody I've had on this podcast, you have more authority than everybody because you've seen it as opposed to people that just gone back into... You've lived it. You've lived it. So
I literally have seen... I've not attended, but I've watched live every WW... I've watched every WrestleMania. I actually was at the 1992 Royal Rumble when Flair won the belt in the Royal Rumble. I was there.
Wow, man, that blows my brain. I mean, that genuinely blows my brain. That's an amazing thing to say you've done.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, it's led to my appreciation in general for the Royal Rumble, and it was actually an interesting event because, I even rewatched it, and it's kind of interesting how there's always been, accusation of when they edit, the crowd noise. Yeah. At the end of that Rumble, the crowd was purely behind Sid and anti-Hogan.
Yeah, which is nuts.
And when they played it back, it was definitely not portrayed that way. But that's how it was. But yeah, so I've definitely I've been through all of the Attitude Era, Raw from the start. I've watch most of it. I can't watch everything, but yeah. So I have definitely a different perspective, probably from some of the other guests I've heard who are kind of recent to it.
So I guess the first question then, well, the first thing we need to talk about really is then what do you prefer? I mean, what where because it's changed so much since then. And obviously today we live in a world where it's on demand, and obviously back then it wasn't the case at all. So, I mean, I get we can't have got to where we are without all of that. So, if anything, it's all important. But do you have a preference? Do you miss the old days? Or do you actually quite like where the wrestling's got today?
Well, I like a lot of the aspects of it. I definitely like, from the women, because back then, and I don't know what the PC term is, you would see little people wrestle more often than you would see women.
Yeah, that used to be a huge thing back in the day, yeah.
It used to be like, I mean, literally women wrestling used to be about as frequent as Brock Lesnar is on TV. I mean, that's about that. Yeah. And so I like that. I tell you, I really thought about this recently. I think one of the things that made, the pay-per-views in the past, all the matches, even some of the garbage ones, they built up and they all felt special. And I think a lot of that had to do with some of the, the scrubs, the jobbers, where it was like, for example, you got, Roman Reigns and Bobby Lashley. Like, they would not be in the ring together for, weeks at a time, because, 1 week, one of them would be out there squashing, local talent. The next week, the other one would be. And then when the pay-per-view came in, it would be like, okay, we're finally going to see these two in the ring together. And it made it feel a lot more special. And I think that's something, nowadays they have the jobbers, but it's Titus Worldwide. It's, so I think that's something that I did kind of prefer, because it did really, there was a big buildup in pay-per-view matches, whereas look at AJ and Shinsuke. It's like you got to see it every other week. It's like, well, how am I supposed to get excited about this buildup of a match if I'm seeing them together all the time?
Yeah,
it just that's just me.
Do you think that goes down to kind of like, this opinion, and there is a lot of evidence to back it up, that, in today's modern times, I should say, given the internet and social media, people's attention spans are just a lot shorter. So you can't actually, because that's what WWE say, right? They say they've got to be quicker.
Well, I think that's what they go. I think that's what they depend on.
Oh, yeah.
You look, and it's pointed out all the time, even look at this past, recently, you got Sasha and Bayley in counseling because, Bayley beat her up. Yet, the week before, Ronda Rousey looked like she broke Kurt's wrist with a briefcase, and she's just gets to go home for a couple weeks. You got Braun Strowman flipping cars, and then the next week, Kurt, we handle things in the ring. Well, no, you don't. But you're counting on people not remembering an hour ago when you were cutting to the counseling session. So I think a lot of that does have to do with that. And if you've been to events, there's a lot of kids, and they want to give the kids that immediate satisfaction. And I guess they're hoping, hey, look what we have here. So if you subscribe to the network, you'll get to see it again in a bigger, better manner.
I think it's amazing, man. I think you can just tell straight away that you've seen it all. You talk with you talk with an authority on it, and I love it. It fascinates me. So obviously you've seen everybody, I would imagine. So even if it's from a on your couch perspective, you've seen Hogan, you've seen Flair, you've seen Steve Austin, you've seen The Rock, you've seen John Cena. Is there anyone that sort of captivated you more than any of the others, or was it kind of that thing because you're younger and you see someone like Ric Flair? That's that.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not sure. The Ultimate Warrior.
Really?
I mean, that if now knowing, of course, this is back when kayfabe. The internet wasn't there. You only got stories from wrestling magazines.
Yeah.
That's where you only heard your news. But it was just when his music hit, it was literally like when Hogan was in his prime. You could not help but get excited and be drawn to the charisma.
Yeah.
And Ultimate Warrior just, I mean, I know he's, in retrospect, I'm like, I know he's awful. He was awful in the ring, but he was, he was by far, and then behind them, the Hardys. I mean,
interesting.
Yeah, I think Jeff Hardy. I think if not for his personal demons, I think he would have gone down with like an Edge or John Cena like career. I think but he had so many demons. I mean, he still ended up winning a bunch of championships. So I think he could have been so much more. However, his wrestling style led to why what kind of put him down the road. I thought Matt was always my favorite.
Me too.
Yeah, I loved him. He was, solid in the ring. His mic work in the early years, it was cringy. But I guess, but he just didn't have that that Jeff did, and so those would be, when I think who are my, my favorites, those are the two, the three guys that jump right out in my mind immediately.
And what was it like seeing kind of the rise of sort of Vince McMahon's WWF with WrestleMania and Hogan becoming, because obviously everyone forgets now, and I do too sometimes, that Vince McMahon just went, "Oh, that Hulk Hogan character's good. Hey, give him to me." I always forget that. Like WWE's so good at revisionist history that you would think from a far point of view that they got this guy and they built him up, but they didn't. They just took him from the AWA and they
I'd actually on TV seen him a couple of times in the AWA.
What was it like then? What was that like? Did you ever think this is going to be the biggest star in all of wrestling?
No. I mean, you saw he had some charisma, but, I mean, I didn't think – I don't think anyone could have seen that. I mean, if everyone – if people could see that, they every, star would be a home run. It just, it was just the right place, right time, right guy. And it just, like I said, I mean, I've seen him at live events, and his charisma was just. If someone in that time period said they at least didn't appreciate Hulk Hogan, I'm gonna call them a liar, because or they're a WCW faithful, because they didn't like it, but because he was just like, he was a guy that you just wanted to like.
Yeah, that's what he does, right? Yeah, that's what he did. Yeah, the best way anyone's ever put it. He made you want to like him.
Yeah, that's it. That was it exactly. He was just, he and one thing, Flair was big. Gave a lot of credit for putting people over. Hogan put him more than a few. I mean, granted, he ended up winning, but he took a lot of bumps and abuse from big guys in his day. And of course, you always knew it was gonna, how it was gonna end, But yeah, I mean, even in the AWA, I mean, you saw that he had, some of that, but, to like you said, revisionist history. I think Vince knew he had, could have at least something, but to get to, that, Vince will probably tell you, well, I saw it. Well, then why'd you let him go the first time?
Yeah. Well, the one thing I will, we are going to answer questions, but I'm not going to lie, I'm fascinated by this. This is like a wrestling historian for me. I don't get this opportunity very often. What about when, so you see all that, and I guess you see Crockett die and AWA and all of that, but then you see WCW rise, and you see WCW fall. So, and again, I'm more aware of that because, that was basically when I was getting into wrestling. I got in sort of the mid-90s, and I saw all that firsthand. I saw Hogan turned heel. Actually, probably early 90s I got into it. So I saw, the end of Hogan's sort of super rise. Then I saw him have his lull in WCW. Then I saw, obviously go heel and change the wrestling business again. But you'd kind of already, because that was different for me. I just knew WWF, and then I learned about WCW. But you'd kind of already been exposed to all of that with all the other territories. Then you see it again. Then one dies. I mean, what on earth do you take? What do you take away from all of that?
Yeah, I mean, the territories, from what I could see. I mean, it was just it was a bunch of mom and pop shops that ended up getting eaten by Walmart. They were all in for themselves. They were content with although that's not necessarily true of Vern Gagne in the AWA. He did try, he was actually on cable TV back when, but he was not a, kind of the problem Dusty had. He wasn't a great businessman. He, Vern didn't trust anybody because he'd been burned so many times. That's why, he was champion, 45 times in his own company. But yeah, and then when at the time the NWA, they went through. I mean, people, people talk about some of the, and it's mentioned as well, some of the garbage that came through WWE. There was a heaps of garbage that went through WCW, early on, until of course we know Bischoff, got the paycheck and is like, okay, look, we got the keys to Turner's Gold Mine, and it's like, look, we can't be doing ding and dong, we can't be doing, that kind of stuff because it's that's what and it's well documented. That's what WWE was doing, and it's like, okay, people are like, look, we know he's not a garbage man. Okay, we know he's not. we know he's not. We know he's not a Minotaur. It's like, stop.
Man, that character. What was that? What on earth was that about?
But you know what? It wasn't out of the almost the norm. I mean, you had Max Moon, you had Battle Cat. I mean, it was all just ridiculous. And, it's like, I mean, someone thought, oh, this is a good idea. But it's like, do you think Battle Cat is going to be a 10-time world champion? No.
Yeah, no.
I mean,
you're placing them in a very specific position before we even begin.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. Even the Taskmaster. It's like, I mean, it's like, no, we need to shed that crap. And, it's like, look, especially, with the inception of the internet, and it's like people like, oh, wait, you mean those two guys are traveling together? Wait, it's once the curtain started being took aside, they realized, like, look, we got to talk to people, yeah, we can have some kayfabe, but we can't have. I mean, we can't have minotaurs, and we can't have typhoons and earthquakes, and that kind of stuff anymore. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. So if you could have chosen WCW or WWF back then, who would you have gone with?
I'll tell you, there was to lead off. There was no more exciting time because, again, you didn't know. Then when Nitro brought in, the outsiders, and then it's like, who's coming now? And, and it was like, I really, I thought early on, it was going to be WCW because they were high. I mean, as hot as from a fan perspective, because it was just all excitement all the time. But you also, as time goes on, you're like, okay, I'm like, this is fine, but I'm like, especially when you see like the Hogan Ultimate Warrior match that's like in WCW was like went down as like one of the worst of all time.
Yeah.
It's like, you realize it's like, okay, these guys aren't gonna, they're not gonna last forever, and then that's when I'm like, man, look at all the, and then it's like in myself, I'm like, because you didn't have a DVR to record one while you're watching the other.
Yeah.
You had to flip back and forth. So it ended up being, as time went on, I'm watching WWE and flip over to WCW on commercials because I'm like, okay, here comes, it just became, a lot of, okay, I've seen all these guys pushed 10 years ago. I'm like, and now they're 10 years older, 10 years slower. But initially, I would have bet on WCW in the first couple of years.
Amazing. I love it, man. I mean, we won't do it today just because I said to him, we do a Q&A, but we have to get you back on to just talk about proper old school wrestling because if nothing else,
absolutely,
it's just great. I find it fascinating. I know everybody says that, I don't necessarily agree with this, but everyone says, oh, you can't be a wrestling fan unless you go back to the old stuff. I don't think that's true. I think people should, you know, take in wrestling however they want. However, personally, I love talking about all that stuff because I do find it fascinating. So, to have your insight, man, is just, it's excellent, dude.
Absolutely.
It's excellent. So,
there's a lot of stuff from old school. It's like you need it, like seeing some of the old stuff and like unprotected, full-on headshots with chairs. Literally have seen, chairs broken over one of the Wild Samoans' head, and it's like, oh my God, I'm like, no wonder these guys can't tie their shoes now.
Yeah,
but yeah,
amazing. Just amazing. I mean, great stories, man. And the fact that you're still watching it today, I think that's wonderful. I really, really do. So many people check out of it, but yeah, it's nice that after all these years, man, you're still involved.
Absolutely. I love it.
Okay, so we will switch over to the Q&A. Stan, we're definitely getting back on. You don't even get a decision in the matter. I will drag you back on. And as always, if you ever want to ask a question, you just search for Simon Miller's Pro Wrestling Podcast on Facebook, and I will add you to the group once you've clicked that you'd like to join the group. And every now and then you'll see a post go up there, and you can ask. And we've got loads today, which I appreciate, and we're going to try and get through them all. Stan, we'll just go through them. You throw in your thoughts, I'll throw in my thoughts. If you have no thoughts, you can say you've got no thoughts. That's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine as well. The first has come from my friend Andrew, who says, what are your thoughts on GM mode, and do you think it should make a return in WWE 2K19? Now, I like the WWE video games. I don't play them as religiously as I once did. And as I've said for a while, my big want from the WWE games is I think they need a change. I think they need to go away for a year, maybe even 2. And I think they need to completely rework from the ground up because I just feel like the 2K series feels like the THQ games, then THQ games felt like the SmackDown games before that. I just feel like we need something new, and especially because if you played Fire Pro Wrestling, which is coming out on PS4 soon, I'm not saying that's any better or worse than WWE2K19, but I think I like it more just because it adds something different, and that's what I struggle with when I play these games. They all feel a little bit the same, and I get it. FIFA feels the same every year. Madden feels the same every year, but I feel the same about those games as well. Every now and then I'd like them to take just some time and offer me something different.
Yeah, I agree. I actually, I didn't buy 2K17. I had 2K16, which is pretty much the same as 2K15. And I'm like, it's just different people. I'm like, it's like you're saying, it's the same moves. It's the same, the action and the play is the same. And I'm like, well, it's new characters, but that's the only difference. So I agree. Something new would be welcome.
Yeah, and that's why GM mode doesn't necessarily change that for me. I like GM mode. I think it's good, but I'd rather they just work on the foundations. Give me something different. I still can't believe, I get Fire Pro kind of does this, but I still can't believe we haven't had a mainstream game where the idea is just to try and put on a good match together. They're all simulations, and wrestling's not a simulation, so it's madness. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Ben Hersick says, should WWE do more tournaments like the Cruiserweight Classic, Mae Young Challenge, and the UK stuff? Those have been successful, and I'm wondering if I'm the only one that wants them. I like more tournaments. And with the World Cup on, the soccer tournament over here in the UK at the moment, and I know some people go nuts. I say soccer because a lot of Americans listen to this. I don't want to confuse people, and everyone knows what soccer is. That's why I say soccer. Otherwise, UK people go crazy when you say soccer. It's like, get over it. But my thing with that is, as far as I'm led to believe, who knows whether this is true, I would love to have like a G1 in WWE, but apparently Vince McMahon doesn't like tournaments. That's always been the rumor. I don't know why. I can't give you any more than that. But every time I hear a rumor about it, it's always, well, Vince McMahon doesn't like tournaments. So that's why you don't get them on the main roster. That's probably why King of the Ring is dead as well.
Yeah. Well, King of the Ring killed itself.
Right.
Once you won King of the Ring, you pretty much were guaranteed to go. I mean, I'm sorry. Once Mabel won King of the Ring, it was like, okay, this is a particularly pointless tournament.
Yeah.
I agree to a point. I think it is sometimes fun, like a tournament to crown a number one contender, not necessarily for belts. I think it's just, with, having the, 2 or 3 year, I think you just got to, almost be careful of oversaturation, not that they have a lot, but, you could throw in, here's a number, a tournament for, number one contender to AJ Styles. Then you get to see, then literally, if they just take and if they threw hats, names in the hats, like, oh, hey, look, I'm getting Rusev versus Aiden English, matchups that you probably wouldn't see, and you get to have them, and then, they go on. So, I mean, look at like how Rusev became #1 contender. I mean, that was kind of a mini tournament, and that was very exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see where that definitely would be, could be, but we don't want to, I mean, I don't think you want one like every month.
No, yeah. What I like about that as well is if you have that kind of system, you can justify having those bizarre matches because you're like, well, it's random. It's exactly. It's a tournament, so it doesn't matter that this guy's fighting this guy because that is obviously what would happen because you can't account for that kind of stuff. So yeah, I would like more tournaments. I would. Lee Tyers, my man. The Four Horsemen reform in 2018. This is right up your street, Stan. Who's in the group and why? Current stars only, but no limits on company affiliation. Okay. Well, the first name that comes to my mind is Kenny Omega. I don't know why. I guess maybe because I just find he's the man of the hour at the moment. And he reminds me of not in the way that he works or anything, but the way that everyone responds to him reminds me of Ric Flair. It just does. People just seem to love him and warm to him, and so I'd put him in there. I would put. Oh man, see, now I'm trying to sort of because I think someone like Seth Rollins, but I think the Four Horsemen never really had anybody like a Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is very much like a
Flair. They had the big, kind of the muscle, and then
exactly, yeah. So I think you kind of want to do that. So maybe you do something like Kenny Omega, and then maybe Braun Strowman to me is of that kind of ilk. He feels a bit like Barry Windham. I mean, not really, but there's somewhat of a similarity there. And then you want to put two guys in there that can tag. The Revival's too easy, so I'm not going to do that. That's too obvious. So just for lols, I'm going to put the Young Bucks in there because that's ridiculous. I've just put Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks in a group, and then thrown Braun Strowman in there, which is nuts. But I like it now. I've said it, so I'm going with it. So that's my Four Horsemen. What about you, man?
Yeah, I would probably say. I probably go, even though it's not really going out there, I'd start with Ziggler, kind of as the Flair, and Drew McIntyre.
That's a great shout. Drew
McIntyre is that, kind of the Lex Luger, that kind of a, the enforcer type dude. And I mean, how can you not choose the Young Bucks? I mean, I know they're weird, but it's, you want a tag team that wins, that essentially is going to, draw people. I mean, the Revival is could easily have been in the original Four Horsemen, but I'm with you on the Young Bucks. I mean, that, just getting to see them in any kind of a group setting, because they play so well with their buddies. They're just entertaining. Yeah. Wildly entertaining.
I think they're trendsetters as well. I think what they've done for the independent scene is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Christian Brown, what's your ultimate goal in wrestling? Do you want to sign with a specific company, wrestle for a certain period of time, etc.? I don't have an answer to that because my original goal when we started doing the Pro Wrestling Journey on What Culture, and if you haven't seen them, you can go to What Culture Wrestling, search for Simon's Pro Wrestling Journey. You can watch a lot of videos of me just talking about me training. And originally the idea then was just to have a match. However, I never thought I'd fall in love with it as much as I have. So now I don't really have a goal per se. It's more, let's just see what we can achieve with this. Because there's going to be, no pun intended, but there's going to be ups and downs. And, we're still in the infancy of the whole thing. So we don't know where it's going to go. So yeah, I'm just happy to see where it goes. And just try and get... Right now, my goal... I do have a goal right now. Right now, my goal is to work as much as possible because I realise to get good, I need matches. And I'm slowly doing that. That takes time in itself. But August, I've got loads of stuff, which I'll talk you through in a future episode. But yeah, I'd like to get to the point where I'm wrestling every weekend. So I will aim to do that. So that's my goal right now. Stan, if you're a secret wrestler, you can answer that one as well.
I am assuredly not a secret wrestler, although in my youth... My friends and I did do some backyard wrestling.
Nice, man. I like it.
And my character's point was I submitted to a side headlock. I submitted to a wrist lock. My character's point was I lost in every way possible. So, So no, and one thing I did learn, I was not cut out for any sort of activity in that method. So
hey, man, you tried, man. That's all that matters. You tried.
I tried. Yeah, we tried.
Amazingly, Stan, this question is right up your alley, so I'm just going to let you answer this one because I think you're going to have more insight than I. Stuart Edridge asks, would there be a market for an old boys promotion? Interesting term. We know the action would be dump, another interesting term, but surely the name values alone would sell tickets. Who wouldn't want to pay to see, for example, Hogan versus Flair or Backlund versus Slaughter at your local sports centre?
Well, and here's where it's good in premise. However, one of my other things I enjoy going to, I enjoy going to comic conventions, and many times there will be some old time wrestlers there, and they ain't selling tickets. To be blunt, you know, and I think the you know, kind of what you mentioned before about today's, you know, youth and having instant gratification. I think some of them a lot, you know, there could be a lot of curmudgeon-y stuff coming up. And yeah, I mean, and we've seen some of the guys that are still out there wrestling. And it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, you know, hearing them do talking and stuff is fine. But at some point they got to get in the ring, and then it becomes awkward. And nothing that you really, I mean, do you really want to see Flair and Hogan in the ring, you know, today?
Yeah, I think that's my issue with it, is that whatever you've got in your head is not going to be what you get. And
it's not. No.
Yeah,
you're exactly right.
I think if you're going to do some kind of old school promotion, what you really want to do is there's no wrestling, and then you kind of just go on some kind of tour, give talks, do signings. I think you'd want to do something like that, but I don't think they can wrestle.
Yeah, like I did see at a convention, I got to hear stories from Booker T and DDP, and that was fascinating, you know. And so, you know, from that aspect, yeah. Have them talk, have them, you know, give, you know, tell some of these stories, have some Q&As, but to get in the ring, no, I don't, I don't, it like you said, in your head, sounds like a great idea. Impractical, no.
Yeah, everything's got a shelf life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stuart also says that he wants to see me versus Bob Backlund. I tell you, Stuart, if I ever get to fight Bob Backlund, I will have done far better than I ever thought I would do in the world of pro wrestling. Tristan Dan Whitcomb, so far this year, what has been your personal highlight in either WWE or New Japan? And what has been your favourite part of your own wrestling journey? Keep up the great work, Simon. Love the content. Thank you, Tristan. In terms of my own personal stuff, I mean, I don't think anything will ever top, you know, my debut, because I think most people would say that, because it was just the most surreal experience ever. And it was also the moment when I was like, yeah, I want to do this forever. So, you know, I don't think anything will top that. I've loved everything else I've done, and hopefully, you know, something is going to come along. I'm not going to give you the John Cena answer of whatever my last or next match was, which is, I see what you're saying, but, you know, to give you a more specific answer, that debut was awesome. And I think my personal highlight this year, I mean, I think critically speaking, I would give it to Omega versus Okada at Dominion, just because I thought, it's just ridiculous. It just blew my mind. However, on a more personal level, and I know I sound like a walking cliche, but finally seeing, you know, the whole Rusev Day stuff, and now Rusev being in the main event, it just pleased me so much, because it's not a joke. I think Rusev is one of the most underrated wrestlers ever. I find him entertaining. No matter what you give him, he can make it work. He can talk. He's good in the ring. So even though I don't think he's going to win the belt,
which is weird. Weird think he's underrated when you think back to his WrestleMania match with John Cena.
Everyone says that. Tank. Exactly.
You know, and leading up to that, he was like, okay, no one's beating this guy. Yeah. Like, he was Braun Strowman. Like, there was like, no one is beating, you know, people putting chains on him, didn't matter. He was going to bust out of it. Yeah. You know, and the fact that he fell from looking like, oh, this guy's going to grab the world title and not let go, to it took this long for him to get his first shot. Yeah, I'm with you there. He's great.
And I don't think he's going to win. I don't think he's going to win, but it's okay, because I just enjoy the ride, and that's what matters.
Absolutely.
That's what matters. So absolutely. What's yours, man?
They're both great. They're putting on great. They're going to probably, to me, from wrestling, pick one, Gargano Ciampa. I mean, those matches, I mean, just like on the edge of my seat, saying, God, please, to both of them, please don't die. You know, just like, because it's just the stuff that they do. I think Ciampa is the best villain we got going now.
He's amazing. He just gets it.
It just, Yeah, it just he doesn't have to say anything. He just walks out and just boos, just venom raining down on him. So I think that I think that, and you couple it with Johnny Gargano, who's probably the best baby face going today. Yeah, I think their match, their probably their first match was by far the highlight from my wrestling.
I totally. It's a great shout. I don't think you could argue with any of them. Suzanne De Silva just says, "I read every Simon post in Simon's voice." You should do that. I like it. Keep doing it. Aidan O'Connell, dear Simon, can I ask what podcasts you listen to? Have you tried any of my top 5 podcasts? I'm not in there, Aidan. I just had a look down. I'm joking. That's a joke. You've got... Actually, I don't listen to any of these, which I should do because I like a good podcast. You've got Fightful with Sean Rossap. I like Sean. Sean's a really good dude. Backstage with Brad Shepard, Lillian Garcia, Dutch Mantel, Solo Monster. I don't listen to any of those, but I will. I drive a lot, so a podcast to me is everything. I listen to the Wrestling Observer. I listen to the Laps Fan. I listen to all the Conrad Thompson stuff because I think... while I understand the criticisms, I just take them in as entertainment, so I love them. And I listen to all the wrestling ones, Stone Cold, Edge and Christian, Taz. I go through it. I listen to Joe Rogan as well, not really wrestling, but I really saw what he talks about. But I will listen to all of the ones you've mentioned because I love a good wrestling podcast. I know it's oversaturated, but I don't care. I enjoy people talking about wrestling, hence why I do my own one.
Yep.
Stan, do you listen to podcasts?
Mine, it's pretty much. I mean, it's pretty much you. To be honest, most of the other stuff I do is, kind of like, you've got, with your ups and downs, and then, there's the other one that's got the Wrestle Talk. I like listening to their stuff, but that's about it because, most of the time it's like, I might pop it on at work when I don't have a, phone call going, but I tried listening to Bruce Pritchard. And I don't know, just him doing all the voices and imitating people, and like it just grated on me. I'm like, there's an old man curmudgeon moment. I'm like, okay, I get it. Yeah, it was stuff, but but now pretty much. I mean, honestly, it's mostly you, and it's not me. It's not me. Buffing up the appearance. It's the truth.
I'll take it, man. Thank you, dude. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I agree with you at Bruce Pritchard as well. Sometimes it's like, I totally understand that. Totally. Yeah. Nick Palmer, do you think Vince would really keep the Universal Championship off SummerSlam, or is this a WWE circulated rumor to keep the internet wrestling community hot at Brock? I don't know anymore, Nick. I'd love to be able to answer that. I don't know. The whole situation is ridiculous. I'm a very positive man when it comes to wrestling. I just thought Raw and SmackDown this week were okay. A lot of people hated them. But even I am not stupid enough to say that we don't need the Universal title back on Raw. Of course we do. The whole Brock Lesnar thing, like all things, has run its course. Not Brock Lesnar, but Brock Lesnar being the champion that's not on TV every week. So the sooner we can bring it back, the better. That's my take on it anyway.
I'm with you. I don't know. I mean, this just, it's, I mean, what else, what other options do they have? I mean, he's got to appear at some point because he's got one appearance contractually left, it wouldn't, let me put it this way. It wouldn't surprise me if he wasn't there, which is sad to say.
No, you're right though. I mean, at this stage, all the evidence is there in your face.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he wasn't there, which is sad because, to me, him not being around makes the briefcase that Braun's carrying pointless.
Yeah, exactly.
It really makes it irrelevant.
Yeah, because he's not going to cash in.
Yeah, and then, the commentator is like, oh, Brock's watching his back. From where? His farm in Montana? He ain't watching over his back, nothing. I'm like, he doesn't care. He doesn't even know Braun has a freaking briefcase.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's why they should have done it with Roman at WrestleMania. I understand why they didn't, but it was a mistake in hindsight. So now I just think we just need to get it done. Put it on Roman. I don't care. Put it on, I don't know.
I don't care. Yeah.
I don't care. Just anyone. Anyone's going to be on TV. I want my belt back on
someone
television.
They don't have to wrestle every week. Just have them show up and come out. I mean, AJ doesn't wrestle every week, but he's there with the belt.
Exactly.
He's going to show up.
And also, I don't blame Brock. I want to say I do not blame Brock. Brock has manifested himself in a wonderful situation that none of us would turn down. It's not Brock. Right. It's the company's decision.
It's the deal he asked for. Hey, he asked for the deal. He was given the deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
who wouldn't do that? I never understand that. But
right.
he's sold out. Yeah. Everybody sells out. That's what work is. That's what business is.
Yeah, that's one of the things. The chance I hate the most. You sold out. I'm sorry if someone's going to give an extra comma in my paycheck.
Yeah.
I'm going to sell out, and so would you.
Yeah, because it's still a job. And you still want to, it's not all about money, but if you want to go and they want to pay loads of cash, go. Go. I mean, of course you go. I never understood that. It was crazy.
Yep.
Absolutely crazy. Ross Wilson, more business-based questions here. Do you feel it is beneficial to finish your education before you get involved in wrestling, or just get out there and train ASAP to get as many matches under your belt as possible and have a lot of experience? Well, I mean, I'm very old man in this sense. I think you should always never rely on one thing. Always chase your dreams, always, and always go after your passions. But sometimes you don't know what car's life's going to deal you, and this is the most cliched answer ever. But it's always good to have something else under your belt. Maybe that's why I have been able to do what I've done recently, because I know, even though I'm putting everything to wrestling, I know I have something to fall back on should worse comes to worse. So yeah, I mean, match experience, as I'm learning, is the most important thing in the world once you feel comfortable. But you could break your leg and then be told you can never walk again. And so you should never put all your eggs in one basket, but you should still believe and be passionate and all that kind of stuff. I
mean, he might be an anomaly, but Xavier Woods did it. I mean, he's got a PhD and he's top of the game, but, and you made a valid point. I mean, look, with the stuff that goes on there, one freak slip, you're breaking your neck.
Yeah.
It's over. And it's over. Especially if they got nothing else to go back on, look at how much financial, he was on top forever, but Flair, he's been destitute, because he had nothing else to fall back on.
Yeah. I think especially in the modern day as well, I think you have to have loads of strings to your bow, as they say. Like, again, you mentioned Xavier Woods. That's why I thought of it. He does the YouTube stuff and he does this and he does that. I think,
especially nowadays when they're traveling so much, and there's so many colleges you can do online. You put at your own time if they're in a car for 3 hours, or at a hotel. I say that because my our company encourages as well. But it's not like they have to go to a classroom for and get a bachelor's degree.
Yeah,
they can do it. From wherever they are in the world.
Yeah, no, I agree. Always have something else in the tank. That's always been my thing.
Yep.
Where are we? Kayla Kelly, who also is always very supportive on Twitter, Kayla. I always notice that, so thank you. And everybody is. It's just, recently I've just noticed it. I'll always give people a shout out there and when. What are your thoughts on the quality difference in WWE programming, Raw, SmackDown, NXT 205 Live? And what changes would you like to see going forward after SummerSlam? New rivalries, potential returns? Well, I think all the four of the brands you just mentioned aim, well, apart from maybe Raw and SmackDown, who aim at the same demographic. I mean, I do kind of follow the company line that WWE says. I do think it's easier to book for NXT than Raw and SmackDown because you know who your audience is. 205 Live at the moment seems to be refining its feet, which is good. It was trending the other day on Twitter, which is a small thing but a big thing. And Raw and SmackDown, as we know, are they're beasts unto themselves. One day it's going to be good, the next day it's going to be bad. It depends what kind of month we're in. There's loads of different things. I mostly enjoy it because I'm that guy, but I do. But I like the fact they all feel different. I think that SmackDown could have a rejig when it comes to the set, and I hope that they do that when they move over to Fox, because I like it to feel completely different. Sometimes they can blur into one. But other than that, no. Sometimes I like the stories, and sometimes I think a match could be better. But I certainly don't. I don't mind the way they're all balanced at the moment. In fact, I think they're relatively decent, to be honest. That's my take on it, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I haven't watched 205 Live. Them being off Raw, it's almost, I forget it's even still there.
Yeah, no, I did too. Me too. It's so much there's so much content. That's the problem.
Yeah, there is. That's the thing. My answer for SmackDown is anything with Becky Lynch with a belt around her waist. She's by far today one of my favorite performer. And you talk about Rusev being underused. I think she is criminally underused.
She's just so likable. She's just so likable.
She is.
It's ridiculous.
And when you watch, and the thing is, that you can't help but notice, even when she's having a 2-minute match with Peyton Royce or whatever, people still chant for her during the match.
Yeah.
When she's down. There's no silence. It's like people are, so she's still popular. And I just like to see, on Raw, I'd like to see the Universal title actually on television. On occasion. And then NXT, I mean, to me, with their stories and how they build things, you can't say stuff's perfect, but I can't say there's anything I'd change with NXT.
NXT's found its niche, I think, and they could just...
Yeah, I think they've got the good, I think that whatever, they do it. They know it. They seem to know, they build stories well and get you excited for those matchups when they finally happen. So...
Yeah, I totally agree. I think NXT is fine. Kieran Scotney, what underutilized WWE star would be a massive hit in New Japan? Or, Dolph Ziggler potentially. Maybe. When I say that, do I think that? I don't know. I don't know. Have you got one, Stan?
I'll be honest. Not sometimes. When I watch New Japan, I have a hard time understanding who's over and who's not.
The crowd's very different,
The crowd being dead, honestly, like when I watched the first Omega Okada, it took me out of the match because they were so dead. I'm like,
yeah, a lot of people say that. I remember that was that was Moose's point. Moose always said that he had that thing with New Japan.
Yeah, because one of the I think underutilized talent is like Ty Dillinger, but part of his thing is the whole 10 and getting the crowd into it, and that's not going to happen over there. So I don't know. That's like you said, Dolph Ziggler is fine, but it's like, okay, he's, his thing is, people not getting the reaction. Well, that's what he get. I think it'd have to just be someone that is all about, I think here's a good one. Apollo Crews. He's, I think he's
so true.
He's great in the ring. And, I think he could perform and keep up with all of them. And you want to talk about someone that's not utilized. He's essentially a jobber.
Yeah.
So I think with how New Japan is, that, they're all about the, style and, and the stuff in the ring. I think he'd probably be, I think that'd be a good one. I think Apollo Crews.
Yeah, he should have stayed in NXT. He was one of those people that I think we can all say he really should have stayed. It was not his fault. No one's going to turn down and move to SmackDown or Raw, but still, crazy. Just crazy. Absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
Luke Robinson, who do you think would benefit leaving the WWE like Cody did? Dolph Ziggler. Actually, he's doing all right, Dolph, at the moment, but I still think he would. I don't think he'd benefit, but I think Daniel Bryan could make an impact like Cody Rhodes did, obviously, because he's Daniel Bryan. But on that note as well, I get why people don't want to leave WWE. Like, if I ever made it to WWE, I sometimes wonder, would I leave depending on how I was being used? Maybe I wouldn't, because I'd be so happy that I was in WWE. So I get why people don't. I respect Cody Rhodes massively. I think he's a beacon of inspiration, if nothing else.
Absolutely.
But yeah, otherwise, because going back to our conversation just then, you could say someone like Apollo Crews, but he's kind of already done it. He smashed it as, what's his name? Ugar Nation. I can't remember his name. Ugar Nation, that's it, yeah. And, man, that's how long it's been. I couldn't even remember his name, damn.
Yeah.
But, so does he need to go back? I don't know. So I think there's a few guys. You could argue someone like Sami Zayn, potentially. But I get why they don't. So, yeah.
Yeah. You think about someone that could go out and, smash it and make his own niche. Although he seems to be doing well, and I don't want him. Kevin Owens is, to me, he is, his matches, you could have Easter egg videos on his matches. All the little things that he does that you just don't pick up on until you watch it 2 or 3 times. It's like, oh my God, look at that little bit of thing that he did.
Yeah.
But he's doing well, and same, with Daniel. I just think Kevin Owens is just, he's amazing.
Yeah, I agree. He can do anything. He actually can do anything.
Yeah, he could do anything. It's hard. Because Cody Rhodes is like, again, one of the things you're like, okay, yeah, he's doing phenomenal, but, could you have necessarily seen it? It's like, okay, maybe early on his name, but then just for, how much he just ran with it everywhere. I don't know. And like you said, there's something to say. It's like, okay, Kurt Hawkins is like, okay, fine. I'm not winning a bunch of matches, but I've got a regular paycheck, you know, and
and
it's he's probably at all the house shows and stuff where they get to have fun and do whatever they want. So plus a lot of them are probably with their friends, it's like, hey, that, there's something to be said for that too.
I do.
I'm with people I like.
And it's still a job at the end of the day, and there's lots of different ways to enjoy your job. Adam Pearson, my man, who I'll also shout out because he's been very kind to me on Twitter this week as well. What's the most violent wrestling spot that you've ever seen in person? I don't know, because a lot of the UK shows, they don't. I went to WrestleMania. I saw a Money in the Bank ladder match. So I think it was either Shelton Benjamin or Jeff Hardy just get hurled at the top of the ladder through another ladder. That was insane. I don't think I've ever seen anything too crazy. I don't think. I've never seen blood at a wrestling show, I don't think, apart from my own blood. That's literally the only blood that I've seen. No, I don't think so.
So in essence, it's your own wrestling match.
Yes, it probably is. Even that wasn't that bad. So, have you seen anything sort of crazy?
Well, yeah, I actually have been to an original ECW show.
Oh, I do. Right, we're getting you back on. How was that? That must have been like mob mentality.
Well, I'll tell you, it was more potentially corporate than you think.
Really?
Because like where we were sitting, like they were recording, and they had Balls Mahoney and Axel Rotten. I think it's Axel. Yeah, they were there coming out beforehand, trying to get all the crowd to move to one side so it looked better for the cameras. And they were like seriously, like slamming people that didn't want to move. They're like, look, I got a seat. There's no one near me. I'm comfortable. I don't want to move. And they were like, I guess you don't want to be part of the revolution, you bastards. It's like, whoa, okay, now I'm definitely not moving. But I mean, during that show, choke slams on thumbtacks and blood galore. And, you see one of those original shows, you got a cornucopia of violent things to see. Probably a choke slam on a board with barbed wire.
Yeah, I'm never doing that. I can't. I can't. Like, I respect the hell out of Jimmy Havoc, and he's an awesome professional wrestler. He's an awesome human being. I don't know how he does what he does. I just don't get it. Nope. It blows my brain in a very positive way. But yeah, amazing. Just amazing. Adam Lamond, good name. Do you think WWE would ever do an after hours Watershed or on the network ECW type promotion like NXT, but with attitude storylines for adults? No, just because they're so into their stockholders and their share price that would still get out, and you could still have bad press with people saying, "Oh, WWE did this," and that would just affect
hours, them. But it's still available anytime.
Yeah, that's the problem.
It's not like you subscribe. It would have to be almost a separate subscription to protect it, type thing. But no, it would still be available on the network.
And it's bad press they worry about these days because that affects stock prices and that affects this and that and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's the real thing they worry about. So no, unfortunately not. It would be fun, but I don't see it. Garth Jackson, are you looking forward to the new UK World of Sport show? And why aren't you on it? Well, I'm not on it because I don't deserve to be on it at any level. I have years to go before I'll even be... don't get me wrong, I never turn down the opportunity. I always say yes, but there are people far more deserving, and they're on that show. I cannot wait for all the UK stuff. World of Sport, UK NXT... all the indies, everything. Right now, the UK scene feels more exciting to me than ever. We don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot out there, to suggest that a lot of it does actually ride on if ITV decide to do a second season, because the rumour is that a lot of the contracts for the UK guys are based on that. Not specifically, but, there's break clauses at 4 weeks or 4 months and 8 months, depending what ITV do. But that's not the point. It's happening. It's going to be on ITV. It's exciting. And yeah, I just love the whole thing. I think it's great. And if one day I get on either... I'll cry my eyes out with joy because, again, how the hell did I do there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about it, but you just have to, you almost hope how much can nostalgia carry it, because that's probably, it sounds like a nostalgia, type product.
Yeah.
But with Modern Stars, it's like, yeah, it's got a good name, but they have to, and it's like you said, everything UK is crushing it lately. So just having a good name behind it, as well as having amazing talent, I don't see how it couldn't succeed.
Yeah. Do you? I don't mean the old world of sport. We'll call it we call the old one world of sport. The new one we'll call WOS. Has the WOS stuff got over? I guess it probably hasn't. But I mean, outside of the wrestling bubble, I guess no one in America cares that it's coming back to ITV, right?
No, I don't even think I think I think one of the reasons people might pay attention is because of oh gosh, I forgot his real name, Stu Bennett.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, way back.
Just because they know him, but generally no, because again, old man thing, but we only had, we didn't have cable TV.
Yeah,
you had 4 channels. It was all local. You couldn't, even when cable kicked in, it was still all the states. So there really wasn't a lot of options to see, world of sport.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I mean, in a way, I think it's good that it does have a UK feel to it. I think that kind of makes it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just realised, Kayla, we didn't answer the second part of your question. You said, what changes would you like to see going forward after SummerSlam? Well, I'm hoping that that's when Daniel Bryan signs his new contract and we go all in with Daniel Bryan and they start a story to push him for the SmackDown title. And I hope by then that it is Roman. Roman's got the Universal title. We can just start building a feud with him and whoever. I don't even care. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that in.
Yeah, exactly. I just want, like I said, I just want the title back on Raw. That's it.
Exactly.
I don't need Roman or whoever is a wrestler every week. Just be out there.
Yeah, put it on
every
Seth.
other week. I don't even care. Just as long as they show up.
Yeah,
that's it.
It's so true.
Just want them there.
Oh dear, it's funny because it's true. And one more question, which is good. It comes from Anna Donald. This is a nice roundup question. What is your favourite year of wrestling ever? Brackets in every aspect, e.g. quality of matches, storylines, pay-per-views, week-to-week shows, etc. Both WWE and any other promotions you also watched that year. Mine is very stereotypical. It is 1997, just because of my age and what was happening and the storylines and a thousand other things. It just ticked all my boxes. And obviously, I was obsessed with Bret Hart back then. I know what happened in November. We're not going to talk about that. But, one of my favourite events ever is SummerSlam 97 with the main event between Undertaker and Bret Hart with Shawn Michaels as the special guest referee. Bret Hart doing his whole I'm a face here, but I'm a bad guy here. All of it just worked for me. I loved it. I loved all the Attitude Era as well. I could probably go through it and find a year that comes close. But also in 1997, the NWO was kicking off and I was learning about WCW. Yeah, it was just, I look back and that's kind of my quintessential year in pro wrestling. It just felt right.
I'll be honest, I don't know years, but honestly, during the Monday Night Wars when it was at its height, when you had 2 programs competing that were just packed with just amazing action, amazing talent. It was just, competition, is hurting. That's why I hope for All In, because lack of competition, it shows in the product, where they don't have to necessarily push back. And I'm not even say push boundaries, with, The Rock, delivering headshots to Mankind while he's handcuffed. Just storylines and going, being on the edge, and of course, in 2001, the year with WrestleMania X7, was just amazing. So I like you, I'd say, during the time when Monday Night Wars and the Attitude Era, when that was really kicking off, was
brilliant. This is so much fun. So much fun.
Yeah, and as especially for fans, we were the ones that were benefiting from this cutthroat competition. Because they were both just pushing each other to be better.
That's true. It's true. And that's why I keep saying it and people laugh at me. And you should laugh at me, you're right. But that's why deep down I would like All In to become the indie version of WrestleMania. Because it will change everything.
When I saw you say that today, I'm like, yes. It's during a perfect time of year where there's not a lot going on, where they can become, the show to see. And, build off it. Yeah, no, I would love, and you also, your point's right. They're not going to become, at least anytime soon, any real threat to WWE. But, if there's an option for people in the States, it'll attract people. So yeah, I would love to see that succeed regularly.
Agreed, man. Agreed 100%. I look forward to it. I look forward to all of this year. I think it's going to be awesome. There are a few questions we didn't get to. I'm not saying this is some kind of plug. I like to give, something back to people. And I've got a bunch from last week as well, over the weekend, or at some point I'm going to answer them all. I'm just going to put them up on the Patreon for patrons. That's not some kind of tactic. It's just, as you all know, you can go through all the episodes on SoundCloud, iTunes. I like to keep them to around an hour. And also I do like to give something back. So yeah, patreon.com/Simon316. You can keep an eye out for that. But as always, thank you very much for everyone that does submit a question, and we'll try and do this weekly. So far we're smashing it, which is good. And to do that, you go to the Facebook group, Simon Miller's Pro Wrestling Podcast. You click join the group. I will accept you, or one of the awesome moderators will, and yeah, you can come in. And we're up to about 1,300 members in there, which is much more than I ever thought we'd ever get. So that's really good. But honestly, Stan, that was a genuinely fantastic chat, and your take and your viewpoint on wrestling, I think it's wonderful, because you can tell you have you've got the benefit of hindsight and the benefit of being there as well, which is wonderful.
Well, and and a little credit to you, which being the gentleman you are, you handle compliments as well as I do. I want to say you also for me and probably a lot of the patrons, having a general positive attitude about a lot of the product is helpful, because it's very easy for everyone to point out all the negative stuff, and it's like, no, we're watching this to be entertained, and it's not, Raw's not 3 hours of crap for the most part, so I appreciate your general attitude, because it makes me, I'm like, I enjoyed that, but this guy's telling me I shouldn't have. You're not. You're like, hey, you know what? I'm stupid. Like the Bray Wyatt, with the, the B team stuff. Yeah, I'm a stupid guy. I laughed at it. I don't care. I enjoyed it. So I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate that, man. That's very kind of you, and thank you to you, and obviously everybody that does support me and allows me to do all this stuff to begin with, because I wouldn't be able to do it without you. So yeah. Thank you very much. As always, you can go listen. We did 2 other episodes this week. You can go listen to the one on Wednesday, where we go through everything in the pro wrestling week, and we talk about where the internet ruined pro wrestling, Raw, SmackDown, all the rumors to do with Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes, and the Young Bucks going to WWE. On Monday, we had Luke on. He went to the New Japan shows, the Strong Style UK shows. So we talked about that. So yeah, make sure you listen to them. It's on YouTube at youtube.com/Rules. So please do come and subscribe to that channel. Obviously, you can find my stuff on What Culture, and I'm all over Twitter and Instagram at Simon316. So come give me a follow so we can keep the conversation going. Stan, I want to thank you very much for your time again and your awesome insight into all of this. It was really, really good chat. And like I say, we'll have to do some kind of old school episode, and we'll just go crazy talking about Crockett's and AWAs and Texas wrestling, all that kind of stuff.
Be my honor.
Oh, I'd love it. But Stan, thank you so much. And thank you everybody to listening. And like I say, we will be back at some point next week. Definitely Wednesday. Definitely Friday. But maybe I'll throw another one in there as well. You never know. But thank you for listening to me. And I will chat to you all again very soon.